The minister in his address absolved the Volta River Authority VRA of any blame in the damage caused by the flooding following the spillage of the Akonsombo Dam. The energy minister told Parliament the spillage needed to be done to save the dam and avert an otherwise more devastating outcome.
It is never true that there's a point mark for VRA to spill. What is true is that there's a point mark for the dam integrity, which VRA works towards, not breaking that point mark. The Speaker, what has happened this year, and I can say that going forward, nobody can stand here or anywhere and say it won't happen again.
Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh mentioned that residents and MPs were engaged ahead of the spillage. He also disclosed that the VRA had provided relief items to MPs to be given to the affected constituents. MP for Pru East, Dr. Kwabena Donko, drew the attention of the House to the devastation visited on communities along the upper parts of the dam.
Our brothers south of the dam have been victims of the spillage effect of the flood. The flooding has been catastrophic for those of us north of the dam. And for those of us north of the dam, the flooding started as far back as in June, July.
MP for Tema West, Carlos Ahinkra, and MP for Yape Kusogo, John Dinapo, also took turns to contribute.
If VRA hadn't taken the decision they took to get us where we are now, and that dam broke, the Speaker, from Akosombo to Tema was going to be submerged underwater. An interministerial committee has been constituted to address the havoc emanating from the spillage of the dam. And I'm saying that even from day one, when you do that, you are limiting the focus. And I thought that government would have done much, much more.
MP for North Tong Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa took a strong exception to claims from the minister that MPs were engaged and that the VRA had provided relief items to MPs.
We are told that before VRA officials spilled, members of parliament were consulted, were part of the stakeholders consulted. I can speak for myself. I was never invited to any meeting. I was never consulted. We have had enough. We are down. We are traumatized. We have lost everything. The last thing we will countenance are blatant falsehoods. We will not accept it.
The comments of the North Tong MP were, however, challenged by Impriasu MP Davis and Opoku, who asserted that Okujeto Ablakwa had received relief items. The comments of the North Tong MP were, however, challenged by Impriasu MP Davis and Opoku, who asserted that Okujeto Ablakwa had received relief items. This threw the House into chaos beyond the control of the second Deputy Speaker, Andrew Esiama, who was presiding.
No, he said, I have personally received relief items from the finance minister. Because, Speaker, this is a serious matter. Serious matter. My chiefs and people, the displaced persons, are going to come and ask the items you received from the finance minister. Where is it? These are serious allegations, which we cannot take it lightly.
Come and withdraw that statement. With respect to Okujeto, he is insistent that he hasn't received it.
When tempest calmed, other MPs took turns to contribute.
Certainly a feisty moment in Parliament. Meanwhile, the Energy Minister, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, has shied away from answering questions on whether the affected residents of the dam spillage will be adequately compensated. The Energy Minister says the assessment of the situation is still being done by the government's interministerial committee, which must be allowed to do its job.
Last week, and I said from this, I would never answer for things I'm not responsible for. I said the government has set up an interministerial committee that is still working. We are not out of the doldrums yet. And that's when we finish. Parliament can inquire from them their reports and how they behave. We will do things that are necessary, but it's a committee that has to decide. I think that we have a difficult time because where the flooding has been carried every year, upstream north, there's a resettlement packages that are sent to them every year. And as soon as the water resides, the human beings go back to the site. And it's not because of anything, it's because of economic livelihood. They're either fishermen who settle around the coast, or they are farmers who want the best land, which is found where the water is. So it's a difficult thing that we have to deal with. It's a really, really difficult thing. One of the chiefs said yesterday that this is not the first time his village or his area has been flooded. But every time, he even advocated that we should build them shelters, so that, because he knows that the people will go back to the areas that they will flood, so that when it's not flooding, the people will come, or when it is flooding, they will come to the areas, and when it is receded, they'll go. So it's a difficult thing. You provide such shelters for difficult places. So I think the experts will have to deal with it, and we are not experts.
Well, still on the spillage, in the quiet village of Sikor, about 200 houses have crumbled, compelling residents to seek shelter outside their one-secured compounds at night. Godwin Asidiba visits the community, bringing a first-hand report on challenges faced by affected residents.
It's about 6:30 p.m. here in Sikor, a village in the Volta region that has been heavily impacted by the Akosombo and Pong Dam spillage. For the past weeks, their homes were submerged in water and later collapsed. Now, most of them do not have a place to lay their heads, so they do gather in this compound to hold body and soul together. I'm sure you can clearly see some mosquito nets that have been mounted here with mats on the floor, with children and kids as young as 2 and 3 years old seated here with sadness drawn all over their faces. They have been telling me that ever since their buildings collapsed, they have no homes to lay their heads. So they do gather here at night, spend nights here, do have good conversations just to be able to sustain themselves throughout their nights and the pain that they do go through. I have been speaking to some of them, and their parents tell me that most of the kids here are battling mosquito bites at night, even though they have mosquito nets here that protects them. And their situation here is really disturbing. It's a heart-wrenching story, and they do need critical attention. They have been to the safe havens, but they tell me that the place that has been displaced or mounted for them to go and seek safe haven has actually been full, packed with a number of people from other neighboring communities. So when they got in there, they did not get space where they can lay their heads and do have a cool mind while they think about what next to do the following day. So they had to return back here, and this is what their story has been. They have no one to come to their aid. They are distressed. They're so sad. They have no hope, because they will have to wait till the ground is strongly dry because before they can be able to, mount their.
Let's get on the phone lines and speak with Deputy Director General of NADMO, Sergi Saji Amadunu. Thank you so much for your time, sir. So the flood waters are receding. What can you tell us about the structural integrity of the buildings?
Thank you very much, Portia. Good evening to you and your service viewers. As we speak, we commence a conditional structure integrity assessment and environmental impact assessment of the structures where the water has completely receded. In some communities, the water is not completely gone. There are still pockets of water, quite an amount of water, which we are working hard to pump out. Now, the object of this assessment is to make sure that as the affected persons go back to their structures, they are not exposed to other challenges too as well. So that's why we are doing that, because we are working on doing decontamination, disinfection and fumigation of some of the buildings too as well, because of the kind of contamination of the water that the buildings were submerging for that period of time. This assessment might conclude on Friday, and we are sure of getting the report early next week. And that will begin the process of us getting some of the affected persons back into their homes.
Okay, so how does NADMO determine the structural integrity of the buildings?
Well, this is being led by the Interagency Working Group on Emergencies, and an agency of that Interagency Working Group called UNOPS, that is the United Nations Office for Projects and Services. And they have built a team of Ghana Institute of Engineers from some people from the EPA, some from NADMO, some from VRA, and some from the Ministry of Gender and other agencies. And these are the teams that are on the field actually conducting this test.
Okay. We know that the rivers were heavily contaminated during this process. Can fishing activities resume at this time?
Well, the river is now flowing its normal flow, but I am not too sure that fishing activities will resume anytime soon. I know the Ministry of Fisheries and even the Ministry of Agri, especially those who farm along the riverbank, there's also some kind of assessment going on for them to be assisted and to start or to get back to their trade or their livelihood.
Thank you so much for your time. And Sergi Saji Amedono is Deputy Director General of NADMO.
In a related development, the World Health Organization has supported efforts in the management of the health challenges faced by victims of the Akosombo and Kpong Dam spillage with items worth $65,000. The World Health Organization country rep, Dr. Francis Kasolo, says that the organization acknowledges the challenges and the concerns and the risks of waterborne diseases associated with the flooding.
According to the World Health Organization, the high risk of waterborne diseases can further worsen the plight of the affected communities.
The United Nations, including WHO, and through the Interagency Working Group on Emergencies and working with agencies such as NADMO, were part of the assessment of the current situation in the flooded areas. And these donations rhyme with what we found, that there was flooding, for example, of mortuaries, of pit latrines, and to preempt that, we need commodities such as intravenous fluids, antibiotics, deployed in these areas, so that should any condition related to this contamination of the water source emerge, that we'll be able to action those immediately.
The Minister of Health, Kwekwa Jiman-Menu, described the situation as worrisome, calling on other development partners to support.
So this will beef up our preparedness agenda, such that in case we have cholera onslaught, we have certain things in there. So these are part of the things that we already are preparing ourselves to do. But as for support and logistics, you don't get food and leave it. We are still asking for support from elsewhere. Our Global Fund, we are even going to write for some grants to come, if they will approve it, the emergency grant and things like that.
The WHO Regional Director for Health is in the country to attend the WHO Interparliamentary Union African Parliament High-Level Conference on Strengthening Health Securities, scheduled for Wednesday, November 8.
All right, let's do some other stories now. District-level elections will not come off in the Santo Kofi, Akpafu, Lipe and Lolobi areas following an agreement reached by the Electoral Commission and Parliament Subsidiary Legislation Committee. This comes after the EC had laid an instrument to create a constituency for the area to ensure that they will have representation in the next Parliament.
And the very day of reconvening, they have submitted it for presentation, and concurrent to it, they had submitted another one for its withdrawal. My own position was that if they had spoken to me earlier, the second request would not have been necessary. Because if there's nothing before us at the time, you cannot put something on nothing. So the request to withdraw something that had not been laid was not even necessary. However, the Speaker's attitude was that people has misconstrued what was happening in Parliament. They thought that instrument had come to Parliament and Parliament was sitting on it, the creation of that other constituency. So the Speaker took the attitude that we should have it presented to Parliament and they could come later to withdraw it. So they submitted the withdrawal, and we had agreed to withdraw it even in my absence, or to withdraw it whenever I came to Parliament, because the previous week I had excused myself. And the reason for the withdrawal was simple, that if you created it, the constituency, you then needed to hold the DLA, the district level elections, to conform to the creation of the constituency. However, there was not going to be any constituency at that time. And then, of course, it was also going to delay the conduct of the district level elections, because the moment that's set in, it will then cause them to hold on the conduct of the district level elections in that constituency, if you like, the new district to be created. So that was the reason why they have submitted the case for the withdrawal.
All right, so that's Majority Leader Oseiche Mensah Bones. Let's go to the phone lines now and speak to local governance expert Dr. Frank Oduro Ejakon. Doc, good evening. Thank you for your time.
Good evening.
Do you understand what exactly is going on regarding SAL? First, EC submits or lays a proposal about the creation of the new constituency. Then we are told that that proposal is being withdrawn and the people cannot take part in the district level elections because then it might interfere with the planning of them getting a constituent. All of these, are you able to make sense of what's going on?
Well, it's a bit confusing, but there are certain clarities which we need to draw attention to. The clarity is that, in principle, at long last, the people in that area are going to get the requisite representation they need in Parliament that they've missed out for all this period. Then they're also going to have their representatives at the local level, which we need to put in place to conform with the legal regime of the country. Be as it may, there are certain challenges which will delay the process, that they cannot have it on time to meet with them the upcoming district level election, which we'll use to elect our assembly members and unit committee members. Now, what the EC thought initially was to withdraw the whole thing and relay it. But what was going to happen is that the people in the SAR area, and also not only in SAR, but also people, the constituency of Buem, because if we remember, hitherto SAR seemed to have been subsumed into the Buem constituency. However, now with the current regime, what is going to happen is that the people are not just, or let me even use may not just be able to vote with the upcoming district level election. That doesn't mean they are going to lose out totally. They may require a few more days for the CI to, I mean, that's a constitutional instrument, setting up the area to mature, because there is a need for 21 days of parliamentary sitting to let the CI mature before it can be effective. Now, my understanding from earlier discussions with a number of parliamentarians indicates that Parliament itself, both sides of the House, are working towards finding means to either let the Parliament continue to sit until the CI matures, or in the worst case scenario, what is going to happen is that the CI will delay for a couple of days. Then the EC, just after the nationwide elections at the district level, will have to fix a date to let the people of SAR and also Buem vote under the new CI that is awaiting maturity.
Okay, Doc, thank you for bringing some clarity to the subject. Dr. Oduro Ejakon is a governance analyst.
Let's continue with the rest of our stories. And some members of the Health Committee of Parliament say the majority leader's comments that sponsors for the General Hospital Reconstruction have withheld the funds are contradictory to that of the Health Minister. A member on the committee, Dr. Sebastian Sandari, says Parliament will only take the minister's word.
It looks like residents of La and its environs will have to wait a little longer or probably forget about the reconstruction of their hospital, which was demolished somewhere July 2020. Now, yesterday, the majority leader in Parliament, Osechemen Sabonsu, indicated that funds that have been secured from sponsors have been withheld because Ghana went to the IMF. But the residents here are complaining the struggles they go through to access health care.
This facility was serving the whole community, Labadi, and the suburb areas like Osuta, Shinungwa, and even some part of Laboni. And if something like this is being demolished without any alternative, then we are all in for the doom.
We're badly hurt. Talking about the pregnant women, there's that, the children and all that. You have to travel long distances, either to a place hospital, Snate Hospital, or Lekman, which is very far away here.
Some residents want the government to hand over the land so they can mobilize resources to construct the hospital.
Government should just lay its hands off the land and leave the land to the La people. We are going to engage in a self-help project to construct the hospital for ourselves. And we have a well laid down plan. I'm talking about the coalition, which we have discussed with our town folks. They are ready and willing to support.
Meanwhile, some members of the Health Committee of Parliament say they cannot take the majority leader for his word, adding that the health minister has been summoned to brief the House on the matter.
We have about 2 or 3 government officials giving contradictory statements on that. The Minister of Health, who says that it's because contractors were demanding extra funding and therefore they had to mobilize. But he assured that they were ready to begin the construction of the hospital. Then the presidential advisor on health also stated that they had finished all necessary negotiations and the funding was ready to start the project. Then yesterday, the majority leader also stated that it's due to IMF conditionality. So the question asks, who is telling us the truth?
Dr. Sebastian Sandari wonders why the government would demolish the hospital in the first place when it was not ready to commence and complete the new one.
Government has not placed priority on the General Hospital project, which is unfortunate. The people are suffering. They have the right to access quality health care. And we think that if we have to achieve universal health coverage, then they have every right to have a hospital. And the question asks is, why did they demolish the existing facility when they didn't have funding?
All right, so clearly we may have to wait a while longer to see when ground will be broken for the commencement of the hospital project. Away from that, founding leader of the Movement for Change, Alan Kojo Tremanting, is urging Ghanaian electorates to reject former President John Dramani Mahama and Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia when Ghana goes to the polls next year. During the second in a series of volunteer activation conferences, he explained that both the NDC and the NPP have proven to be insensitive to the plight of Ghanaians, hence the need for voters to give him a chance to become Ghana's first independent presidential candidate to win power.
Alan Tremanting has been on a mission to sell his transformative vision to volunteers and prospective voters after breaking away from the ruling NPP in September 2023. The second in a series of engagement with volunteers brought together thousands of teeming youth who are vehicles of the transformational plan, which the movement believes will liberate Ghanaians from decades of misrule by the NDC and the NPP.
It is clear that in spite of all the efforts of these two dominant parties, they are looking for change. They are looking for transformation. And the Movement for Change is seeking now to provide an opportunity for Ghanaians to go beyond the two dominant parties.
He also asked Guineans to reject the candidate of John Dramani Mahama and Dr. Bawumia, who will be representing the NDC and NPP in the 2024 general elections.
Between the two dominant parties, they've had an opportunity for over 30 years to roll out policies and programs that can bring transformation to the people of our country. It is clear that in spite of all the efforts of these two dominant parties, Ghana is still unable to move beyond where we've been over these couple of decades.
The event provided a platform for volunteers to familiarize themselves with the tenets of Alan Chambertin's visionary agenda, fostering a sense of shared purpose and determination to drive meaningful change across the country.
I'm a member of MPP and a great sympathizer of Movement for Change. And December 7, 2024, I'm going to vote for Alan Kojo Chambertin. And then the parliamentary, I'll vote for the MPP parliamentary candidate in my constituency. So that is my stand. I have my right to join any association that I want. This is not a political party, it's just a movement. But my political party is New Patriotic Party. If they don't want that arrangement, they can sack me, and I'm ready to go.
As the movement for change gains momentum, only time will tell whether it would be able to make a meaningful impact in next year's general elections.
From the butterfly now to the elephant, and after being elected flag bearer of the new Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia's next task is completing his presidential ticket for the 2024 election, which is to select a running mate. But what factors should influence his choice? There's more in this report.
Traditionally, the new Patriotic Party flag bearers have chosen running mates who are Muslims of northern extraction. Roland Isifwal Hassan for Professor Albert Dubois, Aliyu Mahama for John Kufuor, and Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia for Akufo-Addo. President Akufo-Addo explains why the MPP has stuck with this formula over the years.
I think you're aware of our country in terms of the balance, people from the south, people from the north. I think that for the unity of the country, it is good that we have a leadership where Northerners and Southerners are together so that the country can remain united.
With Dr. Bawumia, a Northern Muslim, at the helm of affairs now, the dynamics will surely change. Will his consideration be based solely on working chemistry, or will other factors, including regional zoning to the party's voting basket in Ashanti, hold sway in an attempt to balance the ticket? For political scientist Professor Ransford Jampo, Dr. Bawumia must be allowed to choose the person he can work with, devoid of ethnicity and religion.
I'm saying that ethnicity and regionalism they are divisive mechanisms that tend to worry the group of every fledgling democracy. And so, in as much as the names are all from one region, the point must be made that this shouldn't be so much of the deciding factor. If after looking at all the variables, the person selected counts from Ashanti region, so be it. But let's not up ethnicity and regionalism too much, because the party itself is trying to do things that would help it set that kind of outlook that it has.
Already, names emerging for the running mate slot include Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, Education Minister Dr. Osei Aduchum, First Deputy Speaker and MP for Bekwai Joseph Osei-Usu, Majority Leader and MP for Swami Chairman Sabonsu, Communications and Digitalization Minister Esla Usu-Ekufo, Chief of Staff Frema Osei-Opare, and former Chairman of the Church of Pentecost Professor Opoku Onyimna. For the party in the Ashanti region, however, their influence in the electoral scheme must not be discarded.
If MPP is to break the eight, we need someone from this region who can pull over 2 million votes from the region. So definitely, if you ask me, that the stronghold of the party, if you are looking for a running mate, you will definitely have to look at where your heart is, the heartbeat of the party. and select someone from there.
Duke Mentopoku, TV3 News, Accra.
Still watching News 360 on TV3. Stay with us. We have business, sports, entertainment right after this.
Let's continue with the rest of our stories. And there was tension at the float bowl in Ada West following the death of one of the residents Monday afternoon. And residents said they were attacked by some unknown men while they were mining salt along the Ada Songo Lagoon. Joseph Armstrong has the rest of the story.
Kwesi is a 43-year-old salt miner who was caught up in the clash between residents of the Flokpo and other alleged workers of Electrochem Ghana Limited. He has an injury on his head and other parts of the body. 5 other residents were said to have been injured and sent to the hospital for treatment. One of them died during the clash.
I may say langas because they are not in police uniform. Okay. And they are holding machetes, both left and right. And they are using it indiscriminately. So they cut 3 of our people, as I'm saying. So it was in that the police started shooting, and the bullet hit 4 of our people, and 1 fell on the spot, and he died. Yes, that is what happened.
Other leaders of the community spoke with the news team.
What is bringing about all these things is it is just the lagoon being given to one person to work with it. Because the lagoon, we are already working on it. And we don't have any new technology from anywhere because we have been trained already on salt production. So we know what salt production is and we can produce salt. So the lagoon being given to one person to work on this is what is creating the problem.
As we see today, no indigene is against the company working at the Songo Salt project, close to 8,000 acres of land. We don't have any issue with them. If they will be there, they should be there. But to where we are working, which by law, if we don't even go for mining right, because the law says that we should work there, we are right. We are not going to be comfortable because our livelihoods are going to be taken out from us.
But the public relations officer of Electrochem Ghana Limited that its workers were involved in the clash.
Our site office located at Tuflopo in Salom area has been razed down with fire. The thing we had also was our equipment. Bulldozers, excavators were equally, brand new ones were equally set on fire.
Coming up is business news.
And welcome to the business segment here on News 360. My name is Michael Obedu. Straight into our top story, as economist Professor John Gachi has provided clarity on the implications of the International Monetary Fund's announcement regarding an increase in quotas of member countries. Contrary to widespread speculation, this significant move by the IMF is not expected to affect Ghana's current bailout program. The IMF issued a press release confirming the approval by its executive board of a proposal to increase quotas by a substantial 50%, marking the conclusion of the 16th General Review of Quotas. This decision comes in response to guidance from the International Monetary and Financial Committee during the 2023 annual meetings with the aim of realigning quota shares to more accurately represent member countries' position in the global economy.
All that IMF is talking about is that it's calling on member countries to contribute about 50% more of what they used to contribute to set up the IMF fund so that the fund size can be enlarged.
However, the burning question on the minds of many in Ghana revolves around the impact, if any, of this global realignment on the country's ongoing IMF bailout program.
This development has nothing to do with the current situation of our country. It only provides opportunity for more countries who are interested in getting support from the IMF to be supported.
This development has sparked considerable debate and analysis within the nation as stakeholders seek to understand the potential ramifications for Ghana's economic stability. Michael Obodu, 3 Business, Accra. Now, with a few days to the 2024 budget presentation, the public has been expressing many economic concerns that they want addressed. Dominant among these concerns is the issue of high fuel prices. My colleague Menu Afo has the rest of the story.
Government plans on spending on.
As I'm standing here, I parked my car at home because of the fuel and all that. He subsidized the prices for us so that things will be okay for us.
Patrick, not his real name, has adopted a strategy that many others have been forced to follow due to the economic crunch. No wonder calls have been intensified to review taxes on petroleum products.
We are expecting some subsidies in the fuel prices because it's making transportation fares going higher.
Very soon, the finance minister will be presenting the 2024 budget to Parliament. Well, this particular budget is one that a lot of individuals and institutions are keen on, particularly because it will review government's major income and expenditure decisions in a critical time where the economy is still recovering. Now, as individuals or members of the public, what are your expectations?
I'm expecting the government to cut costs. We are spending too much. We are spending on unnecessary things. I think that some of the ministers are not working, and so I expect the government to cut them off, use the money for other necessary items so that the country can move forward.
Personally, I'm expecting to see, in fact, the omission of the e-levy.
As for the taxes and this thing, we want him to reduce everything for us because now there's no way. We want government to maybe employ jobs. You have to employ us so that we.
Well, that'll be all for the business segment here on News 360. My name is Michael Obodu. Up next, the sports.